Nick, it's quite a shock and very sad for me to come down and see things as they are. But you're one of the loyal and unpaid trustees that now have the job of trying to safeguard as much of the collection as possible. First of all, can I just ask you why the museum has had to close and why you have no other option than to uh, get rid of the collection, to disperse it?
Well, it's been quite traumatic. We could see it coming. Our lease was coming to an end, and we couldn't find a way of renewing the lease. The obligations are quite great, and the trustees of the museum are personally liable. And so we were rather reluctant to enter into a new lease.
You are, I know, all of you, very concerned that as much of the collection as possible stays in Bath. How are you getting on with that?
There are rather different artifacts. The first, the most important collection we had on loan from Anne Hopkins Clark, whose father was Mayor of Bath 3 times. That's going to the Postal Museum in London, and they've agreed to take that. It's worth many hundreds of thousands. The other artifacts, which are paper-based, such as all the envelopes and some stamps, are going to the Bath Record Office, and they will have them available. Some will go on display, and they will make them available to anybody who inquires. So they have selected the artifacts which they think that they can best look after.
Basically, that's flat stuff, isn't it? Because it's easier for them to store. But you've got many three-dimensional objects here.
Yes, and like our little brass scales with all the brass weights. And we need to find a home for those. And that's much more difficult. But we have spoken to Brilsey, but they don't have space, and to the Stone Museum of Bath, because they don't have many records of Ralph Allen, all about the stone, but not the man who mined it. And we've, of course, very friendly with the Bath at Work Museum, and they are taking as much as they can accommodate. Some of our equipment is very large.
I think including the model of John Palmer's mail coach, stagecoach.
Yes, and so these are the things that really are very important from Bath's history, and they will make space for it.
Because it wasn't just a whim, was it, for Audrey and her husband, Audrey Swindells, to set up a postal museum, because the post office has real history in this city.
Yes, we should remember the first stamp in all the world was posted from this post office on the 2nd of May, 1840, the penny black. Remember, it went on display for the public in the 6th of May. And Ralph Allen was a very clever postmaster who arranged for mail to go directly all around the country. And he made his fortune, and which he invested in Prior Park and in the Bath stone mines.
And made even more money. And then there's John Palmer, who, of course, apart from being manager of the Theatre Royal here, and I believe in Bristol, got involved in the postal system as well.
Yes, well, he said to Ralph Allen, what we need is a much more efficient coach, a mail coach, not a stage coach. And so he had his engineers design one. And we have the prototype of model of that coach.
And suddenly there's no museum to tell the whole story. You must feel really sad.
Yes, and that's why the closure of the museum has been delayed, as we explored all the possibilities to find where else we could go and share all our treasures in one place and share them with the public.
I take it some things might end up having to be sold. Are you keen for any collectors of postal material to make contact with you? Is that something I can publicize for you?
Yes, I think it's inevitable that we will sell some of the artifacts, but we do need the consent of the Charity Commission. We are a registered charity and we must comply.
And of course, a lot of things given on loan, you've got to try and return them.
It's quite a challenge. Many of the things we've had on loan came in years ago. So can we please find the legatees, the people who've inherited the ownership? So it's going to be quite a challenge. Luckily, Bath Council are going to make some accommodation available for us to manage this dispersal process.
So at least it'll be stored somewhere safe and secure until such times as you can finally return to sender.
Yes, so it has to be secure and dry with humidity control.
Well, it's a sad interview to have to do with you, but you're doing a great job. And of course, this was a museum that depended very much upon goodwill and an awful lot of volunteers giving their time.
Yes, and the generosity of many of our benefactors, that's what kept the museum going these 44 years. So we shouldn't forget them. Without their support, the museum could never have survived.